got a lot to talk about today, guys, so get in here. This is Jack with Cosmic Road. I talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like and subscribe and let me know what you think in the comments below. Yeah, look at this awesome UFO shared by Wixie of this weird emission from this orb-looking thing. It's just an incredible capture of something very anomalous. I don't think that's a rocket launch or anything else like that, because sometimes you do get rocket launches that look a little similar, but that doesn't seem to be what's going on here. To me, this looks more anomalous and really interesting. UFOs do sometimes emit stuff from them, vapor, fumes. Sometimes they leave trails behind them. So whenever you get, an example of something similar, it adds to our store of knowledge on that. So let me know what you think about this and what it is that UFOs do when they do stuff like that, when they emit vapor or fumes or interact with water in certain ways. What are they doing? Anything that gives us a clue as to how they work and, what their motives are, I think is helpful. So, let me know what you think. Let me know what you think. I thought that was really interesting. Meanwhile, Matt Laszlo called up to Paulina Luna and asked her some questions. I'll just play the clip here. Instead of just reading it to you, he asked her about Tim Phillips, who was the interim director of AARO, who recently got fired. You may have heard of that. Eric Burleson was also asked about this, and he didn't know why Tim Phillips had been fired, and Anna doesn't either, but it goes on, and there's some interesting stuff here, so let's give a listen. Okay, never mind. The audio was terrible. Matt asks, have there been efforts by the administration to intimidate you or other secret task force members? Anna says, no. In fact, if anything, I think there's been actually open conversations with how I think this is like, especially with like the base, what the American people are wanting and advocating for. There's been absolutely zero intimidation. Unlike with Gary Nolan, who apparently was intimidated. So what's the holdup? I don't think there has been a holdup, she says. They've done more in this administration specifically to the subject than even under the Biden administration. So I think people need to be asking, why did Biden do nothing? Well, why did Trump do nothing in his first term? Why has no president ever done anything? Is the question. Now, I have heard some, encouraging stuff is that, they waited until Trump got in the second time before forming this secrets declassification committee, which seems to suggest that he might be open to declassifying some stuff. So, fingers crossed. We'll see what we get. We'll see what we get. She talks about Tim Phillips, the interim director of AARO, getting fired. She says she did not know that. I'll check into it, but I'm not a fan of AARO. I think that they need to be completely disbanded. So why did Tim Phillips get fired? I think this is a really interesting question. Is it because of statements like this where he kind of admits the UFO phenomenon is real? Now he goes on to say that AARO investigated it and couldn't find it, but it's intriguing.
One of the questions we routinely received from the Senate-confirmed officials, cabinet-level officials, hey, are you getting the cooperation? Is there anything I can do for you? And I can tell you that everybody really wanted to solve this puzzle and, successfully understand what's been going on with this UFA business over the last 70 years. And Congress in its wisdom actually gave, AARO the authority, the resources to go after, research this, this topic and inform them. Now there's frustration by the public that there's things AARO can't share. Well, we're looking for aliens. We didn't find aliens when we found other things and other national security concerns.
Okay, so they couldn't find aliens, but he does talk about this 70-year phenomenon that's been going on that remains unexplained. Now, is that why he got fired? Because he does admit there is a phenomenon? It's intriguing. So let me know what you think. I mean, it may have nothing to do with anything, but he has been making some statements, and he does seem more open to this stuff than people like the lovely Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick and the also lovely Kozlowski, the new director of Arrow. Yeah, and Tim has been kind of making waves. He's been talking about some interesting things. He also talked about Arrow getting a bunch of skeptics over.
We actually brought some skeptics into the Pentagon and the bowels of the Pentagon and actually briefed them with our scientists. Now, our scientists were intimidated as hell by the community and didn't want to come public as working on this. The internet and social media can be very, very vicious if we do not support their claims. And Arrow's not going to do that, and Arrow will not be intimidated.
Okay, well, there you go. Arrow brought in some skeptics to brief them or something. Some are suggesting this is evidence of a disinformation campaign by Arrow. They brought in people sympathetic to what the narrative they wanted to express that narrative for them. I don't know if that's what's going on or not, but Merrick has challenged Mick West to ask if he had been called in. And Mick West said Merrick is fishing. I've talked to lots of people, and I keep those confidential who wish to be kept confidential. I don't bite because even a no could reveal information by process of elimination. So if he says no to having been invited by Arrow, then you go down the list, right, to Stephen Greenstreet, I guess. Sadly, this logic is unclear to some people. So they think refusing to answer a question means yes. It does not. People are chiming in. I think Merrick did ask him one more time. Let's be crystal clear on this, Mick West. In the spirit of full transparency, did you go to the Pentagon for a briefing by Arrow? Yes or no? Mick West says, sadly, this logic is unclear to some people, not unclear to Merrick, of course. He knows what he's doing. So we're not getting a yes or no answer on Mick West. I think he's trying to suggest that no, he wasn't briefed, but he's not giving us a definitive answer on that. So let me know if you think Mick West was briefed by Arrow and brought in by them to spread disinformation. And why do you think it is, if they weren't spreading disinformation, that Arrow invited skeptics in specifically to be briefed? I mean, they weren't like giving them the real Monty, the full Monty, right? They weren't trying to convince them that they were wrong, clearly. So why did they bring them in if not to spread disinformation? Let me know what you guys think. Meanwhile, from Mike Disclosure, talking about Beatrice Villarroel, that astronomer lady who has some juicy stuff that is going to drop in the near future. This is not that, but this is some research from that same individual. The person who Dennis Asberg was saying was going to drop some really interesting and possibly alarming stuff from stuff that she's found out, apparently through her work in astronomy. A new peer-reviewed study by Beatrice Villarroel and Stephen Brule reveals that the Palomar Observatory Sky Survey from 1949 to 57 captured over 100,000 unexplained transients, short-lived objects in the sky that vanished without a trace. I've seen some of those. I'm sure a lot of you have seen those too, these brief UFOs that just kind of dart across the sky and go out. Now, some of those are probably shooting stars, but some of them are most definitely not shooting stars. Key findings. These transients were 45% more likely to appear within a day of above-ground nuclear testing. Dates with UAP records saw an 8.5% spike in transient activity. The strongest anomaly? When nuclear test and UAP reports overlapped, before Sputnik ever left the ground. The data suggests something extraordinary, anomalous objects appearing in Earth's orbit years before humanity put anything into space. My friend Dr. Beatrice Villarroel has done a really great job of connecting the dots with her research on this topic. So yeah, even back in the day, UFOs and nukes go together. Meanwhile, this is really fascinating from Jesse Michaels. Andrew Gillimore is testing extended intravenous DMT trips that allow its recipients to communicate with interdimensional entities and conceptualize higher dimensional objects and spaces. He is sending in mathematicians, symbologists, and sociologists to map out the full landscape. The DMT landscape being studied by professional scientists and researchers. I love it. I love it. So let's give a listen to what he has to say here.
There's no way for you to visualize a 5-dimensional object in its true form, and yet when you smoke DMT, you do. It's an extremely intense experience. It's very fast and very, very short. It's not Terence McKenna.
Okay, I'm hearing some music, so I'm going to pause for just a moment.
Implanting the idea of machine elves into people's brains. These are intelligent beings that go back thousands of years.
Okay, that's just super fascinating. I love the visuals there. But yeah, going scientifically into that other realm, that DMT realm, to gather data on the entities there, doing it, professionally, academically, maybe even a way that could be peer reviewed. We have Skywatcher trying to get evidence about UFOs or plasma beings, whatever they are, peer reviewed. Could we now get peer-reviewed machine elves? I love it. I love it. I've tried DMT several times, raw DMT. I've never had a breakthrough experience though, so hopefully that'll happen for me someday. But of course I've, been to many ayahuasca retreats, and I'm going to another one in the near future. How all of this works is beyond me, but there is something very real there, and I think something very important, and it can help teach us about ourselves. It can help heal us. It can help us teach us about other things as well. So I can't wait to learn about what they discover in these other DMT realms. What do you guys think they're going to discover? Are they going to sit down with cosmic entities and get useful, actionable intelligence, or at least information that will help us understand the bigger picture, or what that really interesting space is, that DMT realm or realms where these entities are encountered. Meanwhile, I wanted to point this podcast out to you, experiencer interviews. Mr. Gray does a great job of interviewing fascinating experiencers of the phenomenon. And this is Jeff Silver in a multi-part interview. This is only part 3, where he goes over the contents of his book, relating his various experiences, experience by experience. Like, each chapter is an experience. And they cover some really interesting territory in this interview, part 3, including going to a city on Venus, an alien city on Venus. Now, he says this was more of like a dimensionally phased city, or an astral city, or he went there in some sort of other form, maybe not a physical form. But it's a super fascinating experience that he had. He talks about various other experiences, going and, encountering beings on their ships, contributing genetic tissue, and years later meeting one of his hybrid children. Now, I like this story because early experiencers of the UFO phenomenon back in the 50s and so on, the beings they were encountering were saying they were from Venus, often. So I think that is really cool that we have some possible corroboration from an experiencer who actually went to Venus, potentially. Also, people like John Lear were saying, actually, there were aliens or beings on every single world in the solar system. The solar system was stuffed with life, but they weren't life quite as we know it, not on our plane or our vibration. They were vibrating at a different level, so that if we went to those places, we wouldn't be able to see them. So I think this is really interesting. He seems like a very credible, sincere individual with just the right amount of skepticism, not about his experiences, but about the intent of the beings that he was encountering and what it all means. So yeah, again, check it out at your leisure. I'll link to it below, and obviously use your own discernment. Meanwhile, NBC is reporting on the alien in the front yard story. Well, it's in the front yard and then goes into the backyard. Yeah, that story. That I've talked about several times. Well, now mainstream media is picking it up, and they do an okay job depicting it. They interview the homeowner. They bring in Scott Roeder, crime scene analyst. or a video analyst to, give his thoughts on it. Of course, then they bring out a debunker. They're Scott. And then they bring out a debunker guy who says, well, actually, it's all just as a human, and video compression is making it look like an alien. And then they bring out Zach Bagans, of all things. And apparently he is comparing it to the movie Contact and the beings there. So I'm glad the mainstream media is covering it. They do seem to, treat it lightly, I would say. They don't take it as seriously as I think aliens prowling around your yard should be taken. Or at least if this is a legit experience, which I think it is. I think we're looking at a genuinely anomalous being caught on camera. And now we have the Dobby the house elf footage, which also seems to be legit. So why are these beings hanging around people's yards? What is up with that? What are they doing? Are they preparing for abduction events? If not, or if so, why are they not using technology that they would use during an abduction? The being in this case was using the gate. He was just going through the gate, or walking through the gate, not phasing through it. In an abduction experience, beings often will phase through walls and things. They're using high tech. But this guy is just walking around, opening and closing gates, not seeming to engage any high tech except possible video interference, which is interesting. So let me know what you think about mainstream media covering this case, if that's a sign of progress, or if you're a little bit discouraged because they're still using the same lighthearted tone that they usually use. Let me know what you think about that and everything else in the comments below. Like and subscribe, hit the bell to be notified of future videos. You don't want to miss a thing. Join me on social media. There's Facebook and Twitter links below. Love to see you guys there. If you want to support Cosmic Road in a bigger way, consider grabbing a coffee mug or a t-shirt in the merch store below, or by becoming a channel member. Channel members are rock stars, and I really appreciate you guys' support. Thank you. Also, channel members frequently get to see videos hours before everybody else. This is pretty cute. Okay, like and subscribe. There's plenty of other videos on the channel, and I'll see you guys next time. This is Jack with Cosmic Road, signing out.